can't believe I almost skipped these books. Hey Book Dragons, I'm so glad you're here. Today I'm going to be giving you 10 books that I almost skipped, and I'm actually really glad that I didn't. So we're going to get right to it. If you have snacks or drinks that you would like to consume and you don't have those yet, pause the video here and you can go grab those and come back and chow down while I'm gabbing in your face. And if you are all ready to go, then let's go ahead and get to it. So I'm going to start this list right off the bat with Shogun by James Clavell. I had avoided this book for a while. It had only recently come on my radar since starting BookTube. I may have seen it in the past in a bookstore just randomly, but it really started grabbing my attention when people started talking about it on BookTube. But I knew it was historical fiction, and I just didn't think it was my cup of tea. And it was a chonker, right? It was over 1,200 pages. So I thought to myself, oh, that's just, I don't think that's going to work for me. I rarely get along well with historical fiction, although I have had some hits. And so I thought, oh, this probably isn't for me. But I do love Japanese culture, and especially that time period in feudal Japan. I really enjoy that time period, and so I eventually decided to go ahead and pick it up and see what I thought of it. And I'm so glad I did. It was my favorite book of 2025. And I can't believe I waited this long to read that book. And so I'm glad I didn't skip it, but I almost did. All right, the second book on this list is going to be a real surprise to everyone because I love this series so much. But at the very beginning, I was bound and determined that I was going to skip Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I had heard a few mixed things about it, and, I didn't really care for some of the covers that had been put out for that. Sometimes I'm a cover buyer or a cover reader, and so, I was like, I don't know. There's so many series that I want to read that I'm probably just never going to pick this series up. And I finally decided to give it a try, and oh my goodness, I'm so glad I did. It's one of the best series I ever read. The Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb is just absolutely brilliant and heart-wrenching and deep character development, which is something I really, really love. Oh, I'm so glad that I did not skip it. I just had heard a few mixed things about it, and for some reason I got it in my head it wasn't for me, but it is so for me. I have one book left in the entire series, at least of what she's written right now, and I'm so glad I didn't give up on it. All right, the third book on this list is Dungeon Crawler Carl. I assumed I would not really enjoy something that was a mashup of literature and a video game or an RPG. It is a lit RPG book, and it sounded weird. It's a weird mashup to me. It still is, technically. But with this series, it just works. The humor, the character development, the themes that are talked about throughout the book as you go through the different books in the series is just really top-notch. And I had a blast reading that first book, and since then I've been binging the series. I'm currently almost done with book 5, and I'm doing it on audiobook, which I think is the best way to experience it. But I always said that lit RPG wasn't for me, and probably not all lit RPGs are for me. Some are probably better than others, but I'm really glad that I started with Dungeon Crawler Carl because it's been a wild ride and I'm so here for it. But I almost did skip it based on the assumption that it's just not for Chaz. So it is very much for Chaz, and I've had a great time reading that book and the series. So I'm glad I didn't skip it. And now we're going to skip to the next entry on this list. And that is Guards by Terry Pratchett. I read The Color of Magic way back in the day, pre-BookTube. And it was not great. It was not great for me. I still don't think I will ever reread The Color of Magic. It almost put me off the Discworld because I just kind of assumed that if I didn't enjoy one book, the rest would not be for me. And a lot of people encourage me, oh, Chaz, you need to start somewhere else. You need to start with the City Watch series or the Witches series or the Death series. Do one of the core sub-series to the Discworld series. I've said series a lot. And I was really hesitant because, I don't know, that first book just really did not work for me. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to start with Guards because most of the people I had heard from said that Guards was the best place to start if you want to get a real good feel for what the Discworld is like. And I am so glad I did. I've read Guards and Men-at-Arms so far. I also read The Hogfather, which I really enjoyed. That's part of a different sub-series, but I really enjoyed it. I read it around Christmas time. And even though I have had a couple other misses with the Discworld, I've found some really great reads, some really fun and laugh-out-loud books. And so I'm glad that I didn't give up on the Discworld entirely. I don't think I'm going to be a completionist, but there's a few other Discworld books that I plan to read. So, and who knows? Never say never, right? I almost said never with this series, and I'm glad I didn't because Guards was amazing. The City Watch is a lot of fun. So, there we go. Moving on to number 5 on this list. And this is going to really surprise some people. This is Dune Messiah. So I read the first Dune book for the first time when I was in my late 20s, I think, when I read Dune. And I enjoyed it so much that I was like, oh, I'm just going to continue reading the series. And again, this was pre-BookTube, guys. And I started Dune Messiah, and I just really hit a wall. I'm just like, oh, this is not working well for me at all. I don't think this is for me. I'm glad I enjoyed the first book, but I don't know. Dune Messiah just rubbed me the wrong way at the time, and I don't know what it was, because I have since gone back to Dune Messiah and read the book and absolutely loved it, almost just as much as the first Dune book. And it's cool because it completes Paul Atreides' story arc, right? So both of those books are essential to have a complete character arc for Paul. And I don't know why, that first time I just bounced off of it, but I'm glad I went back to it because now it's one of my favorite books. So I'm glad I didn't skip it altogether, but I almost did. And granted, I only got maybe a chapter or two at most into the book the first time I read it before I DNF'd it, so I'm glad I went back and read Dune Messiah and found out what an amazing book it really is. All right, we're going to move on to the Scythe series by Neal Shusterman. I don't know what it was initially that made me think I was just not going to pick this series up. I'd heard a lot of people talk about how much they loved it, and I knew it was YA, and that didn't bother me that much. You know, I read other YA stuff, but I just wasn't sure if it was something that I really enjoyed, even though a lot of people did. It was dystopian, kind of, and I had read other dystopian series, and they were good, but they weren't great for me. And so I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I need to pick up another dystopian series. But I did finally, at the strong encouragement of one of my friends, and I'm so glad I did, because that series is absolutely amazeballs. I loved every book in that series. And I know some people really bounce off The Toll, which is book 3 in the series, but I didn't. I thought it was a great book. I thought the series progression was really strong, and the ending of the book I thought made complete sense. And I still have to read Gleanings. I haven't read the short story collection yet, but I will be reading that at some point. And then, of course, he's coming out with a prequel now called Rising Thunder. And I'm so excited. And there's a TV series coming. They're making a TV series out of it. So it's a great time to be a Scythe fan. So I'm really glad I did not skip the Scythe series. All right. The next one is The Three Body Problem by Cixin Liu. I'd heard a lot of people talk about this book and how it was a really complex sci-fi read. It's definitely hard sci-fi, no doubt about it. And everybody said it's more concept-driven. There's not a whole lot of character development for the characters themselves. It's more about the concepts and the things you're learning about the alien race and everything like that. I'm like, yeah, that might not work for me. But I decided to give it a try. I heard some really great reviews for the book that made me think I might actually like it. And so I read it, and I did really enjoy it. It wasn't the best book I've ever read, but it was really good, and I still have not read the other 2 books in the series, but I do plan to, and I think I will really enjoy the series overall once I eventually finish it. I don't know when that will be. I feel like I have to be in a mood to read that particular type of book, so I will get to it eventually, but I'm really glad that I did not skip The Three Body Problem. It was quite good. The next one is The Warlord Chronicles, and this is a series that I did not totally skip, okay? I read the first book, The Winter King, and I really love Arthurian stuff, so I was hopeful that I would enjoy it. And I know it's more historically grounded than other Arthurian tales are. And so, yeah, historical fiction, I wasn't quite sure how that would work for me, but I read the first book, The Winter King, and I didn't really click with it that well. I got to the end of it, and it was fine, but it wasn't great for me, so I had decided I was probably going to skip the other 2 books in the series. But I was really encouraged by a friend of mine to do the audiobooks for the remaining 2 books. And I'm really, really glad that I decided to do that, because I absolutely loved The Warlord Chronicles on audiobook, and I think that's a great way to experience that series. And I wish I had read the first book on audio now. Jonathan Keeble is a fantastic audiobook narrator, and it's a series that I will go back and reread with the audiobooks, but I do want to reread that series because it was that good. I'm really glad I didn't skip the other 2 books in the series. So if you have never read The Warlord Chronicles, you really need to give it a try because it is fantastic. And yes, it's historical fiction, but it is clearly in the realm of historical fantasy, because the first book isn't too much fantasy, but then you dip into the second book, and yeah, there's fantasy there. There's there's some magic going on and stuff like that. So I had a blast reading that series, and I'm so glad I didn't skip it. All right, the next one here is The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. I read about halfway through The Blade Itself the first time, and it was fine, but I kept putting it down. It just wasn't clicking with me that well. So I wasn't sure if I was ever going to go back and finish that series. I wanted to, but I was kind of like, oh, is that just because everybody else is reading it? Is it kind of peer pressure? Maybe I don't really need to read the series. But eventually I went back and I reread the beginning of The Blade Itself and then finished the book. And I'm really glad I did, because I ended up reading the other two books in the trilogy, and it was just an absolutely amazing series. I really love Joe Abercrombie's writing style, the humor he puts into the books, and the characters that he has created in that series are just amazing, especially Sandan Glokta. That guy is just off his cuff, but he's great. He's my favorite character in the series. And I'm so glad I didn't give up on that series, because it was worth it in the end. And eventually, I plan to read the standalones and then the sequel trilogy as well. I plan to finish the First Law World at some point, but I haven't gotten to that yet. All right, and the final book on this list, rather, it's a series, and that is His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. This one is a very unique case, because for most of my early years, I was raised in a very religious Christian home, and concepts that pushed against the established Christian order were heavily frowned upon. And I had a friend at the time who had read His Dark Materials and was telling me about it and telling me about all the things and why they would not recommend that most people read it. And at the time I was like, oh, okay. I mean, yeah, it sounds like it's really divisive and everything like that. But as I moved out of that phase of my life, and that's a long story for another time, but I decided to rebel against a lot of the stuff that I had grown up being told, and that my life had kind of focused on. And I decided to read His Dark Materials. So I picked up the Golden Compass, and I was absolutely blown away by that series. It's not my absolute favorite series of all time, but it's really, really good. And I hope to do a reread at some point. But Lyra's story is amazing, and the philosophical concepts that are dealt with in that book are just amazing, because it really is, at its core, a story about learning to think for yourself. And I think that's what a lot of the religious ideals I was brought up with grated against. And so yeah, I'm glad I didn't skip that series, and I would wholeheartedly read it again at some point. And the things that my friends told me in the past about it are true, but I don't know that that's a bad thing. I don't really think it is. So I will leave that there. And that is the last book on this list that I'm glad I did not skip. And I would love to hear from you in the comments below. What are some books or series that you almost skipped, but you decided to give it a go and you really enjoyed it? I would love to talk with you in the comments below and see what those are for you. Maybe some of these that I've talked about have been on your list. of books that you might skip, or series that you initially wanted to skip and didn't. Tell me about it. I love to hear from you. And if you want to watch more of the content that I put on this channel, there's some ideas on the end screen here. And I hope you have an awesome day, and make sure you read more books. I'll talk with you soon.